Hello, welcome to another Becoming a Modern Man. We are playing Bant Spirits, and this time we're running up against Dredge. This is our opening hand, fairly decent. We've got 2 Mausoleum Wanderers into a potential Drog School captain, and we've got Collected Company to back that up. So, pretty good starting hand. Putting Faithless Lootings, putting 2 Bloodghasts into the graveyard. So we will be facing those down very shortly, by the looks of things. Mausoleum Wander for our turn, opponent has Shriekhorn, so they're able to mill themselves before playing their land, which finds an Amalgam. So that will be coming into play along with these Bloodghasts, which is a bit problematic. We draw into a Birds of Paradise, looking to, we could play the Supreme Phantom, but I think we're looking to see if we can get to Collected Company, because that could help a lot in this scenario. So just attack for 2, pass the turn. Shriekhorn, before our opponent's draw, manages to get them a Narcomoeba. Then they get to Dredge the Golgari Thug, which finds another Narcomoeba and a Prized Amalgam. So opponent's running pretty well here, which certainly doesn't work out very nicely for us. Opponent tries to conflagrate our Birds of Paradise. I'm going to counter that with a Mausoleum Wanderer so we can Collected Company next turn. But we are going to go down to 10 here off the attack. Mills finds another Bloodghast. And they're going to flashback conflagrate for 3 here. So we're going to respond with the Collected Company, which finds us a Supreme Phantom and a Spell Queller. Unfortunately, Spell Queller can't counter the conflagrate, or it doesn't. I'm not entirely sure how that works with the flashback of conflagrate. I think technically an X spell's cost is its converted mana cost, so I guess technically if you discard X cards, 3 cards to conflagrate, then its converted mana cost is 7. I think that's how that works. It's kind of a bit confusing because obviously they don't actually pay the X cost, so they're actually just discarding cards. But I think technically the conflagrate costs 7 as its converted mana cost in this scenario, and therefore the Spell Queller can't counter it, which is certainly problematic. Opponent's going to attack with everything, I imagine. So we've got some not great blocks. Just keep us alive though. We do go down to 3. Opponent gets a Narcomoeba back into play. Amalgams are coming again. Our opponent doesn't have any great attacks, so that's good at least. It's a Reflector Mage to bounce some Amalgam back to hand, but I'm going to have to hold back to block down to 2 here as well. Opponent dredges, Faithless Lootings, and then finds a Creeping Chill, which was always a risk. And that's enough to finish us off. We can of course, counter the Creeping Chill by sacrificing the Mausoleum Wanderer, but then we are down to 4 creatures against our opponent's 6, so they'll be able to get the 2 damage through either way. So yeah, unfortunately not good enough, and our opponent does get to pick up the win this time. It's probably closer than it looked, I guess, but ultimately we were on the back foot after that very fast start from our opponent. Okay, so against Dredge we are looking to bring in the Rest in Peace, Thalia's, and Path to Exile. Thalia taxes their spells, their Faithless Lootings, etc. Makes it a lot difficult for them to get things going. And Rest in Peace, obviously, very useful in just exiling their graveyard, so we are hoping that we get that. Path to Exile, similar situation. We can get rid of one of their creatures for good, Bloodghast or a prized amalgam or anything of that nature, get rid of it for good, and it's not going to keep coming back. So we are looking to bring in those cards. In terms of what we're taking out, Drogskull Captain's a little bit slow, so probably cutting a couple of those, and we are also looking to cut a couple of the Phantasmal Images as well. I mean, potentially we could cut Rattle Chains instead. Some options there, but I think we still want to bring in all the cards that we discussed for sure, and it's just a matter of choosing where we want to make the cuts. Okay, so here we are with game 2. This is our opening hand. So we have Rest in Peace here, and that is probably good enough for a keep on its own, but the hand is fairly decent anyway. Turn 3 Geist would be pretty nice. So Bant doesn't have anything turn 1. I think we're just going to stick Rest in Peace here. I mean, there is potential for our opponent to remove it before it really does any damage, but I think there's just too much risk that they'll do way too much too soon. Our opponent doesn't seem to have a second land, so ends up discarding a Cathartic Reunion. And we get to play Geist here, which actually prompts the concession from our opponent. Yeah, the game would have been wrapped up fairly swiftly from there with Geist. Next turn we're probably looking at, well, we could either keep up Spell Queller or Supreme Phantom to add to the extra damage, to the damage we're dealing. So yeah, I think the game would have been wrapped up fairly swiftly. So fairly anticlimactic, I'm afraid, for game 2, but yeah, just a quick win. Our sideboard card came through, and that managed to push us through. Okay, so here we are with the third game against Dredge. So lucky us again, we managed to have Rest in Peace in hand. So I don't think we can really mulligan this. We don't actually have the mana to cast Rest in Peace though, so we'll have to see how that pans out. But I think we've got to keep this. So our, also to note, our opponent mulligans down to 4, which obviously is also good for us, and just runs out of Blood Crypt for their turn. Going to play Mausoleum Wanderer so we can counter a Faithless Looting or something along those lines. And a Dark Blast so they can actually start dredging, and we don't have the Rest in Peace mana just yet, so just going to have to run out a Supreme Phantom. But Dredges, Loam, Shriekhorn and Nature's Claim come into the graveyard. So we are aware that our opponent has Nature's Claim. Just going to keep up Rattle Chains here, I imagine. It's probably the best play. But yeah, we do need that third land. Faithless Lootings. Fortunately, they've yet to find anything of any major impact. They've got Dredge cards, but nothing too significant. So I'm going to drop Rattle Chains here. Hexproof doesn't really matter, but we are going to be able to start attacking for 4. Windswept Heath means that we can finally find white mana and be able to cast this Rest in Peace. Just going to exile our opponent's Dredge cards. I think we just want to stick it. So attack for 4, opponent plays a land. So they seem to be flooding out after a already mull to 4. Get to attack for 4. But Nature's Claimed. I accidentally clicked through that. I could have Spell Quellered to keep the Rest in Peace around, but I don't think it's going to matter hugely. Opponent's only got 1 card left in hand, which is a Dark Blast, which we're then going to Spell Queller. We should have Spell Quellered the Nature's Claim, but either way, it doesn't really matter, and we managed to wrap up the game. So, yeah, I mean, I guess we we won game 2 and game 3 fairly easily, I guess. Our opponent got a bit lucky in game 3. I mean, they were already on a mull to 4, and then they dredged into nothing in particular, which made their life a lot more difficult. We also had Rest in Peace in both our opening hands, so I don't think the way this went is necessarily reflective of how our matchup is against Dredge. I actually think the matchup's pretty bad in general. Because they're just able to swarm with reusable threats, and is quite difficult because their cards are also cheap for us to really disrupt them, particularly given that they're not casting a whole lot of spells. So I think, yeah, the matchup seems kind of rough, which probably is another reason that Bant Spirits is not overly popular. Yeah, if you draw the hate cards, it can work out pretty nicely for you, but I think in general they're probably more likely to swarm the battlefield much faster than you can react, and then you're stuck with a bunch of cards that don't do a whole lot against theirs. So yeah, I think it's a difficult one. I don't think it's a great matchup for us in general, but we did manage to pick up the win this time around with a bit of luck and the fortune of drawing our sideboard hate against them.